She was benched. She was pulled. She got into a screaming match with a rookie, and USA Basketball quietly erased her from the roster before anyone could ask questions. That's the story that exploded across every timeline this week. Millions of views, thousands of comments, sides being picked in real time. And it's completely fake. Every single word of it. Because the actual official USA Basketball roster, released on camera on NBC on August 6, 2026, has both names sitting right next to each other. No removal, no blow-up, no secret meeting. Just two of the most famous basketball players alive being told to go win a gold medal together. So if the rumor is fake, why did it spread so fast that even people who don't follow basketball heard about it? That's actually the real story, and it starts almost a year before anyone was talking about a World Cup roster at all. Let's rewind to the morning everything kicked off for real. August 6th, Sue Bird, now working as USA Basketball's managing director, stood in front of cameras on the Today Show and read out 12 names. These are the women flying to Berlin for the FIBA Women's World Cup, running September 4th through the 13th. Aaliyah Boston, Paige Buchers, Caitlin Clark, Nafisa Collier, Kalia Copper, Chelsea Gray, Ryan Howard, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, Brianna Stewart, Aya Wilson, Jackie Young. 7 of them have never played a World Cup in their lives. This is a full changing of the guard happening in real time, veterans and rookies mixed into one roster, and Team USA walks into this tournament having won 9 of the last 12 World Cups, for straight, plus 8 consecutive Olympic golds without dropping a single game along the way. That's the most dominant run in the history of the sport. Any 12 names read out that morning were going to be a big deal on pure basketball terms alone. But 2 of those names weren't being talked about as basketball. They were being talked about as a feud. And the second both were confirmed on that list, nobody online cared about Berlin. They cared about a comment made 10 months earlier. To understand why one line from an interview turned into a full-blown national storyline, you have to understand where each of these 2 women actually came from, because their roads to this roster could not look more different. Aya Wilson's case basically writes itself. Back in the 2022 World Cup, she was the engine of the entire gold medal run. Over 17 points and 7.5 boards a night. Tournament MVP. And since then she's added 2 more WNBA championships and 2 more MVP trophies to a resume that already had her in the conversation for greatest ever. This season she's still playing at an elite level. Still the same combination of footwork, strength, and interior scoring that international defenses have never solved. Nobody debated her spot on this roster. It was never a question, it was just a formality with a press conference attached. Caitlin Clark's road looks nothing like that. In 2024, she didn't even make the Olympic team, a decision that caused plenty of noise at the time but honestly made sense. She'd only played 12 WNBA games at that point and was still adjusting to the speed of the pro game. Then 2025 hit her even harder. A groin strain, then a bone bruise in her ankle, limited her to just 13 games all season, averaging 16.5 points, nearly 9 assists, and 5 boards before being shut down for good. For someone who arrived in the league with more hype and more cameras pointed at her than any women's basketball player in recent memory, that season was humbling in the most public way possible. Then March 2026 happened. World Cup qualifying, Puerto Rico. Clark is named tournament MVP, averaging 11.5 points and a tournament-best 6.5 assists as Team USA goes a perfect 5-0, beating Cuba, Puerto Rico, Italy, New Zealand, and Spain. That tournament was actually the first time Clark, Buchers, and Reese ever suited up together for the senior national team as pros. And what Clark did in Puerto Rico wasn't just solid, it was a direct answer to every single doubt about whether she'd bounced back. She didn't get handed a spot. She played her way onto this roster on her own terms, full stop. 2 completely separate paths. One steady dominance, one painful comeback. Both landed on the same 12-player roster for reasons that had nothing to do with the comment that would later make it impossible for anyone to talk about either of them individually. Now here's where it actually starts. October 2025. Wilson had just been named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year, putting her name next to some of the biggest figures in global sports that year. In the profile that came with that honor, she gave a quote about the current moment in the league, without naming a single person. She said the league shouldn't lose its history. that it had been erased for a minute, and that there are tons of women who went through incredibly hard, gritty circumstances to build the league to where it is today. She never said Clark's name. She never framed it as a personal attack on one player. But the timing made it basically impossible for people to read it any other way. Clark had just come off a rookie year that shattered ratings records, sold out arenas across the entire league, and brought national TV coverage to a level women's basketball had simply never had before. A large chunk of veteran players and longtime fans had spent that whole season wrestling with a genuinely uncomfortable question. How do you welcome a wave of brand new attention to the sport without quietly riding the women who built it out of the story? Wilson's comment landed right in the middle of that tension, and once her comment started circulating through both fan bases, what was framed as a general point about league history got turned into a headline pointed at one specific player. The reaction was instant. Clark's fans pushed back hard, asking why she needed to be brought up at all if she wasn't being named directly. Wilson stood by what she'd actually said while pushing back on how people were twisting it. Neither one of them ever said the other's name out loud. And then, for 10 months, both of them basically went silent on the whole thing. This is the part that matters most, because it's the part almost nobody actually reports on. Silence isn't the same as nothing happening. There are 3 specific moments across those 10 months that complicate the simple version of this story, and none of them get anywhere near the attention the original comment got. First one actually happened before the comment even existed. July 2025, 3 months earlier, the WNBA All-Star Game. That year, the league split rosters by fan vote instead of conference, with 2 captains running separate squads. Wilson and Clark weren't put on opposite sides like some built-in rivalry. They were teammates. Both picked for the same team, both photographed reacting from the same bench in the fourth quarter. They shared a sideline, a jersey, a game, months before a comment that would later convince millions of people they'd been enemies from day one. The actual record shows the complete opposite happened first. Second moment, January 2026. Wilson is photographed courtside at a Miami Heat game, there to support her boyfriend Bam Adebayo, an evening that has absolutely nothing to do with the WNBA, Team USA, or Caitlin Clark in any way. A fan nearby happens to be wearing a Clark jersey. Multiple outlets picked up that photo and ran it as some kind of ironic gotcha, framing it as Wilson unable to escape Clark's shadow even at an unrelated event in a different city in a different sport. That spin belonged entirely to the outlets, not to Wilson. She never commented, never reacted publicly. There's zero record of her acknowledging it at all. If anything, that moment says a lot more about how badly parts of the media wanted to keep this narrative alive than it says about anything Wilson actually felt that night. Third moment, August 8th, 2 days after the roster dropped. Wilson does a press availability with the full team. She talks about Berlin, about the honor of playing for gold, about past championship runs, in the same calm, team-first tone she's always used with national team media. What's notable isn't what she said, it's what she didn't say. No mention of Clark, no acknowledgement one way or the other of a storyline the entire internet had spent 10 months speculating about. Reporters asked about Berlin. She answered about Berlin. That's it. Put those 3 moments together, and you get a picture of 2 professional athletes who, every single time they had an easy opening to escalate this into something bigger, chose not to. That restraint is part of the record too, even though it almost never gets counted as evidence by anyone covering this story. Now set the drama aside completely for a second, because the roster itself tells a much simpler story. Wilson is a post player, an interior force built on physicality, footwork, and positioning in the paint. At the 2022 World Cup, those exact traits powered the whole gold medal run. FIBA's rules, with a wider lane and heavier zone defense, play directly into her strengths. Nobody at that level has found a clean answer for her yet, and there's no real reason to expect that changes in Berlin. Clark is a guard. Her value is spacing the floor, reading the defense, and setting teammates up rather than scoring from the block. Her qualifying numbers, 11.5 points and a tournament-best 6.5 assists, suggest she's being used less as a primary scorer at this level and more as the floor general, the player whose job is pushing pace and finding the open teammate, which very often means finding Wilson finishing inside. Strip away every ounce of narrative and this is, on paper, close to an ideal pairing. A dominant interior scorer and a high assist floor general aren't fighting over the same shots or the same space. If anything, they complement each other almost perfectly, Wilson finishing exactly the kind of plays Clark and the other guards are built to create. The exact matchup the internet spent 10 months treating as a potential explosion is, from a pure basketball standpoint, precisely the combination a coaching staff building a championship roster would want. Head coach Cheryl Reeves' mix of veterans like Wilson, Stewart, and Collier alongside newcomers like Clark, Buchers, Reese, and Boston looks built around fit and execution, not around managing personalities. A gold medal chase doesn't leave a lot of room for anything else. So what's actually happening between these two players right now, 10 months after a comment neither of them has ever directly addressed? This is where the record runs out, and you have to be honest about what can and can't actually be known from the outside. One reading is the simple one. Wilson's comment was never personal to begin with. It was a general statement about league history that got picked up by a massive, hyper-engaged fan base and blew up into something way bigger than it was ever meant to be. Both players moved on, and whatever tension existed in public perception never actually existed between the two of them the way people assumed. Under this version, the roster is exactly what it looks like. Two elite players picked on merit, sharing a bench that's about as unremarkable as the one they shared at last year's All-Star game. A more skeptical reading says silence doesn't automatically mean resolution. Professional athletes walking into a national team environment have every incentive in the world to project unity no matter what they privately feel. A gold medal run under national TV cameras leaves almost no space for public friction between teammates, whatever might exist underneath. Under this version, Berlin isn't proof anything got settled. It's a high-pressure, tightly controlled environment where any leftover tension simply has nowhere to surface. There's a third possibility sitting in between those two, and it might be the most realistic one. Maybe both players just did what professional athletes are trained to do, which is compartmentalize. Treat one October comment as a closed chapter, not because it got resolved through some conversation or apology, but because neither of them has any actual reason to keep it open. Both have a season, a roster spot, and now a World Cup to focus on. That's not friendship. It's also not unresolved conflict. It's just what professional coexistence looks like when public drama benefits absolutely nobody, least of all the sport itself. Whether that adds up to real resolution, pure professional necessity, or that quieter third option isn't something anyone outside the locker room can actually answer. Maybe 5 weeks in Berlin starts to reveal it. Maybe it never does. Here's what isn't up for debate though. The rumor that kicked all of this off, Wilson getting pulled from the roster, some explosive blow-up behind closed doors, two players who couldn't be in the same building, none of it happened. The record is right there. USA Basketball put both names on the same list on August 6th. Nothing changed. Nobody got removed. What's actually real is one comment from October, 10 months of silence from both sides, one shared bench at an all-star game that happened before any of this started, and now one shared roster heading into Berlin. Social media wanted a feud because a feud gets clicks. The algorithm rewarded whichever version of the story made two of the most famous players in the sport sound like they were at war. But the actual documented, time-stamped record tells a much quieter and honestly much more human story. Two professionals who said almost nothing after a moment that could have easily blown up into everything, now expected to go win a gold medal together in front of the entire world. Whatever was said or left unsaid between them privately over these last 10 months, only Wilson and Clark actually know that. What isn't a mystery is that the rumor was wrong. The basketball fit is strong. Berlin is coming fast. The real question was never whether these two can share a court. They already have, more than once. The real question is what they can win together, and whether that ends up being the only answer that actually matters once the tournament starts.